not, if you're paying attention, I didn't tell you to move. I told you to put your stance in a new location. Okay? I don't move. I don't move ever. I put my stance in a new location. It is not the same. This is not my stance. This is a leg threat at the sacrifice of everything literally from here down. He has one thing to worry about. If I'm going to throw over there, I'm going to come back up. And I've done all of this before I've actually thrown a shot. He's got all the time in the world to change his mind. Okay? So when you move your stance, it has to be your stance. Your stance has to be something where you can throw everywhere. So if I'm here, I can throw this, right? Here, I can throw it, but I have to come back up and reach. He'll kill me. But if I move my stance, I can still throw that other leg because this is my stance. This is not my stance. This is not my stance. If this is your stance, that's okay, but it should. If this is where you fight, this is where it goes. So now, if this is your stance, which I don't recommend, but if it is, when you threaten the side, if this is your threat, you sacrifice this for this threat. Do you see? You can't. When you move your stance, thank you. You move your stance. You don't move. We've all seen this fighter, right? He's moving a lot, but we've all stood there and watched him wait, right? When you're done walking, let me know. And he does. Now he's ready. He's not. But if I make the same side to side by moving my stance, when am I going to throw?
No idea.
Exactly. At any point in there, I could have thrown a shot because I was in my stance. Don't sacrifice your stance. The second was mentioned, if when you do this motion, when you change and threaten an area, if you get a little too close, you are at risk. That's a fact. But to threaten somebody, you actually have to get in their range. But you don't have to be more than a few inches in their range. The way I've been describing this is in steps, because I want you to see the pieces. But when I move my stance around, I try to think of it as compound circles and ovals. There's no lines, there's no points. Okay, so when I do this exercise and I threaten his leg here, this looks like a definite line. But in reality, it's going to be this. Okay, there's an oval here. Laterally, my oval goes this way. Vertically, it goes this way at the same time. So I'm arcing here in my movement. My movement goes forward, it drops, it rises back out again. So I'm sliding into his range and back out, skirting into it. So at that moment, that's when he's going to respond. He's either going to throw or he's going to change his position. Then you're gone. Because you're not there to kill, you're there to get information. He told you a thing, whatever it was. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay? So when I describe these things in pieces, this is how they're going to get executed. They're going to flow like this. So that can take us to the other question. Somebody mentioned that brain fogging. Thanks. Most fighters, most anyone, at about 3 to 5 seconds, their brain begins to, what I call fog. There's too much to process. It stops thinking. It wants to react. It needs a break. That break doesn't need, once you train, it doesn't need to be more than a split second. You will, when I fight, you will see. So when I normally fight, that little step back, right here, I don't care how good he is, he cannot kill me. So I can relax right here. But for practice sake, this is how I used to do it. I took as long as I needed to relax. Clear my head, okay, go back in. Now all I need is that little. So if he made some kind of move to me, there, I got my break. Okay, that little, just a little bit too far out of range was enough for me to relax, and then I can step back up again. Take as long as you need. Unfortunately, what you find is, what I will do is when I find something, when you need a break, you go ahead and you step back. That's the other side. That's the offensive side of this. I felt him relax, so I stepped up to the edge of his range. I didn't close with him because I don't want to trigger him. I don't want him to suddenly leap on me. But if I come up on the edge of him, he's like, oh, and your mind never catches. You can never make a plan. Okay? Does that make sense? Questions?
When you talk about making a plan, is that a Gestalt thing, or is it actually thinking about what you're going to do?
Thinking about what I'm going to do. I have two things going on in my head in a fight at a time. The first is learning how my opponent fights. Is he an explosive fighter? Is he a fast fighter? And those things I'll test from outside from a safety point. Once I realize he's either a jumper or he's not a jumper, and the thing that makes him go, whoa, then, okay, now I've got a thing, I know how much time I have, I know the thing that makes him stop coming after me, those kinds of things. When I start a fight, when they call lay on, what I'm waiting for is the opponent to rush me. Because that's something I can't plan for later, I have to plan now. So when they say on your guard, and I stand here, I am waiting for my opponent to rush me. If he rushes me from there, I got time to deal with it if I'm ready for it. If he doesn't rush me, I'm like, okay, he's not that guy. Now I can go on with the rest of them. Now I'm going to start getting my information. So that's my plan. This is the one thing I can't plan for. So that's thinking about defensively. Offensively, it is actually making a plan. The way I think of it is, when I was first learning it was, when I am engaged with an opponent, I'm feeling. When I'm disengaged with an opponent, I'm thinking. Okay? So when I step in, and he comes up. Okay? None of this was thinking. When I came in, he came very relaxed. He kept his center, which told me he wasn't going to rush. Because his sword is back, I knew this would be a good threat. So I cut down here to his leg, and then out. So now I've learned he's not a rusher. He's got good balance. He's comfortable against me because he didn't over-respond. And I can make him turn and that leg pop out. That's the information I just got. Okay? Now, if I build on this, what I have learned is I can probably get this leg. He's comfortable, so you may know this leg is popping out. So I'm just going to, I don't have a full plan yet. I have the beginning. I can probably get a leg. If I choose to go too early, we're back to the jumping thing again. So I figure that if I step over here and throw, see, it's a mistake. And look at his sword. He didn't do anything with it. If I did this and went, oh, his leg pops out, I got him. And the next time I step and throw, he will cross block and kill me. If I'm lucky, I'll get a block. If I'm lucky, that's all I get out of it, but I'm not going to get the shot. Okay. So now I know that the leg opens, we got a relaxed opponent. So now I'm going to, okay? Now what I've learned is the same thing before, I confirmed it, but I also learned that he will turn to protect this and cut this area off with the shield. And gets ready to, and he starts his shot. There's my shot. So I'm betting money that that's my shot. Okay, so that's what I'm probably actually not told him, so we can change it. So does that make sense? What I'm building?
Yes, sir.
So I'm looking for two pieces of information when I get in. If I'm to simplify as much as possible, how can I make the move to what opens up when I move them? And the second part is, when's the time to throw? And that has to do with their hand. And that depends on the opponent. Some opponents, when threatened, he did not. But some opponents, like when I threatened this outside, he may have been the kind of opponent who, yes, you know what I was thinking. Anybody would call that he knows once they've seen that the fight's over. If he's the kind that does that, I already know my shot, because when I threatened out here, he gave up his shield and his sword. Anybody who defends with a sword out of the gate, you've just thrown away your whole purpose for me. You cannot kill your opponent. So now I'll go ahead and take the headshot. Because even if I fail, I got nothing to risk. He gave up his sword already. And because I'm moving in my ovals, I'm going to cut in fire my shot and get out. He's either dead or blocking and firing when I'm going. Do you see? So, question.
So when you say my shot, you're meaning in that moment, the shot he least wants you to throw, right? The thing that he is maybe less prepared to address?
When I say my shot,
Yeah, like you're
to
right.
me,
Yes.
my shot means the fight's over. I'm going to get a hit. That's the purpose with it. When you guys go to practice, try this. Test this stuff, or test whatever, but do this as an exercise. You get one shot. And I don't mean when you're moving around and you go pop, you whack somebody's basket, he'll just throw them off a little bit. That guy, that's not a shot. When you actually throw to hit, to wound or kill your opponent, when you throw it, if you miss, you lose the fight. Tell your opponent, oh, I lost, sorry. You got to start over. Okay? What I will bet you will find is there are a lot of shots you're throwing because it's been a while since you threw in the fight. Maybe it's been 5, 10, 15 seconds since you last threw. Maybe, I don't know, maybe the guy did a thing and you just throw because they moved. Those aren't shots you're in charge of. And if they're not, you just use your weapon for nothing. And if you have no weapon, what's the point? Okay? The whole point of this is creating a situation where when you throw a shot, it's going to be successful. The beauty of our game, of course, is that's not how it always works out because the other guy's doing his own thing back. But that's ideally what I'm looking for. Okay? This was a good example to me because what I learned from when he moved is he's comfortable, well-balanced, and he doesn't commit his sword into defense. So if this was a guy that I had just gone after, I'm not fast or strong. Likelihood, he would have picked up my shot and hit me, possibly combinations because he's maintaining a pretty good stance and can follow up a shot. So even if he's not a tactical fighter, I'm throwing myself at risk. But why? Do I want to crapshoot that? If you like that, that's cool. Have fun doing that. Jump in there, throw it away. Just don't expect to be a winner. You know, I think of it like pool. It's a difference between, if you shoot pool, you get the ball in the corner. I'm not a pool player, so when I get the ball in the corner, I'm like, yeah, I get the ball. And not the ball I planned, but it's a ball and it's a corner. You know, that's cool. But when you get better at something, you don't want that. I've gotten to the point where there's sometimes I've hit an opponent and I'm like, because I could have had a better shot. But I was screwing around. I wasn't planning. I just reacted. They moved, I slipped out and tagged a leg when the whole body was all open. So, really? So that's what it ends up becoming for me. Does that make sense?
It does.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
More questions?
Timing. So when you're moving in and moving out, and you notice their reaction time, are you? And so you said like with Sir Bain, you were just going to wait and throw at his leg. You knew he was going to do this. Are you stepping and throwing immediately, or is it situational? Like you're going to step, wait for him to react, and then throw?
It is situational. You're exactly right. Yeah, timing is a great question. So what I assumed in this case was, since you're the word runner, so when he makes the move that I talked about, where he shifts the leg and his defense goes up because that's where I threatened, the point for me to throw this is the moment this foot plants, my sword should be hitting his leg.
Okay.
Okay? Especially because he's a better fighter. If I wait, then he will respond. Because I'm positive, even if it was done by accident, somebody has done this whole go over here and throw, or done this, right? Bang, bang. He's seen this many, many times. What I don't want that response. What I want to do is meet him there when I know that he's going to arrive here. And when I did this test, part of what this was is not just positional, it's timing. How fast did he get there? Okay. We have a gentleman in our group who came up from Amtgard. You guys are familiar with it? It's foam fighting, for those who don't know. They're extremely fast anyway, and this guy is ungodly fast. I would set him up, place a shot, he would sometimes block it, and then retaliate before I could get back again. Insanely fast. So what I found with him is, I do a couple things. Do we have time to go on to something else here? Nobody's kicking us out, so we'll keep going. So this one will build on timing for offense, when to throw. In this guy's case, he was significantly faster than I am. So what I was looking for was late. So I would start things as an example. So, can I steal you? So when I go, what I want from you is you throw a shot at me. Okay. Now, I only want you to throw when I'm going to throw. Okay, he's not sure, he's hesitating. So here we have a man of high quality, and he's having a hard time because he doesn't know when I'm going to throw. But my reason for these first ones is to see how fast does he throw, or does he throw. Okay, and he was gracious enough to stand still. This proves my other point, thank you. Which is, of course, standing still. He is forced to use, you notice what he did. He did everything a good fighter does. They don't have mobility. He shifted his body line without tilting. Okay, so he moved his body and worked this. But he has to, because his feet aren't moving. And that's one of the positions I'm trying to create. When somebody moves well, like in our group, what happens a lot to me is a right-handed fighter likes to cut across me this way. Okay, so let me steal you if that's okay. That's totally fine. I will switch. So facing him here, what they like a lot is if you take a long step with your right foot to your right and throw a leg shot, you can cut underneath my shield and catch this leg. Okay, even if I bring the shield down, there's still an awful lot of space under here, even with the normal shield, to still pick up this leg. And the beauty of it is, you do it as you move. So as he takes this step, he throws and then he keeps on going. Okay, so even if I throw, I'm way past my angle. Okay, this is a great example for a number of reasons. It's got the loop. The loop saves him. He cut, his loop went down. Okay. So how do we deal with that? Now we're dealing with somebody who's doing the same stuff back to us. Well, if somebody's going to cut down to that leg, I can move with him. So now it goes from him being safe to throwing a leg shot that puts his arm in danger. You see it? So I wanted to break this down into pieces, but that's not how you'll use it. It's going to flow, your opponent's going to move, and you're going to have to adapt to it. So now I want to do an exercise on moving. So I do this. I hate working out. I hate doing things that are redundant. So I try to find ways to do things, but I love fighting. So I like to find ways to do things that help me with my fighting that don't require me to make any special efforts. One of those is how I walk. Okay, I'm going to talk about it more in fighting. So if everybody moves out, so everybody's got a little more space. So spread in and out. And everybody has some space. Move in too, since you use some of this space. Hey, you just want some space around you. Okay. I'm a picture person. So I like to imagine things. So I don't care what your stance is. Pick an imaginary opponent, face them, and then sit down. What I want you to imagine is you are sitting on a bench. It's a flat, long bench. A bench is low, a bench is straight, and a bench is flat. It's not bent, curved, or rounded. Okay? So you're going to sit on the bench, and you're going to move down the bench to one side. Okay? When you're on a bench, you don't do this, right? Or this. You sit on the bench and move right down the bench. Okay? Now, we're sitting down. Let's sit on, relax your legs. Sit on the bench again, but this time the bench points forward and back. Okay? So you're going to slide backwards along the bench. And forwards along the bench. See how the height doesn't change? Okay? I'm going to use myself because there's enough stuff around. Okay. So everybody look at me. Here's me getting attention. Everybody look at me. Okay? Just stand normal. What I want you to do is look at my head. But not exactly my head. Whatever's on the wall behind me. Okay? Now squat, come back up again. Do you notice? It's a simple perspective. You notice my head seems to raise and then go back down in relation to the background. You see it?
Yes.
Okay, now bend your knees a little, slide on the bench left and right. Don't move your feet. Just all it takes is a few inches back and forth. Now you can see me doing this, right? With the, in relation to the background, they go back and forth, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So, everybody over there. It's gonna be weird because there's only one target to walk towards. So, what you're gonna do is, and do it slowly because I want you to feel it. You're gonna sit down and relax. Don't think about fighting. Just think about sitting and relaxing. Look straight at me. Walk towards me slowly so the background does not go up and down. It does not go left and right. You see it changing?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, now stay where you are. Relax. For this, no, I want you to literally feel this. You should be sitting, relaxed. Okay? Okay, see it? Now, go backwards slowly. And don't let me go up and down or left and right. It's hard, isn't it?
It's really hard.
Okay? What happens is over time, you become able to do this. Right? So this creates two advantages. One is I'm never stuck anywhere. So we've all seen this from a fighter, right? It looks threatening. The thing is, from the moment that they clear their balance point, this foot extends, lands, they plant, push into about here. That entire time, it can't go anywhere else. They're a fixed target. And if you're a mover, the moment you see them do this and you slide your stance over, right here, I'm fixed, not facing you, you're mobile and facing me. All, this very motion just got me killed. Right? If this is a circle that goes down and curves and he cuts out, okay, I haven't lost anything. Now, his movement was nice too, so he didn't lose anything really either. So now we're into the dance. Okay. The other thing it does is, because I'm fluid, like that step, I'm not giving away, I don't have any fixed points for somebody to lock onto. I can flow through them. So now if I do this movement in stance, and that's why and again, I'm telling you this so you understand my stance. I'm not expecting you to do my stance. The reason I like this A-frame like this is because I'm very balanced, I'm resting, I can move within my space, and I can float. So when I move my stance, it tends to be like this. Okay? So nowhere in there did you notice my upper body comes offline. I don't tilt, shoulders don't roll. Because every time they do, I gain an advantage and I sacrifice something. And that's what I'm trying to do. I do not want to sacrifice. I want a person to feel like this is in danger, but it hasn't stopped me from throwing wherever the other shot is. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Questions?
When you're coming in and just testing the water, and this might be situational also, do you just find a shot that's just too good and just take it? I mean, it's hard not to, right?
It's hard not to, but you need to confirm. And sometimes you can confirm ahead of time. So if you're a higher level fighter, if you're dealing with somebody who's lower level, this again doesn't even matter if it's fencing or not. If you're dealing with a fighter who has something like blatantly open, and they're a newer fighter, odds are they don't even know it. If you're facing up against a knight or a master and something looks blatantly open, you should be asking questions. Is that a worm on a hook that I see? Okay. My shield. I will fight. No, I'll fight. You know what? Let me do that round one. Because I can show you a great example of this. Okay, I fight with a center grip oval, which is really close. My stance is here. Okay. Now, you'll notice from when I look at you head on, I'm pretty well covered. But you'll notice as I turn from left or right, I should look fairly open. Okay? The advantage of this is if my opponent's in front, if I keep my opponent in front of me all the time, that's all I gotta worry about. The lateral attacks don't mean anything to me. Okay? Because I'm keeping him offline. I'm giving him a little bit of a center and a little bit of one side and none of another side. So I got a whole third of me that doesn't even have to be protected at a given time. So now going back to what you're talking about, there have been times I've fought someone who done this.
Generally, when I have some that I got that are.
That head looks really good sitting out there. It's not.
So I can clip it on. But I
Because
go below
my
what
response,
I-
what I'm looking for is an opponent who likes this shot. Right? So if I say do a threaten to him, and that's what he either throws or threatens, then I'm going to, so now go back to your stance, and assuming that's your response, I'm gonna, out here, I'm gonna drop it, and I'm gonna step in, and when he starts his shot, okay, now he changed on me. Well, yes, but if you, using this as just the example.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I see
Yes.
what you weren't open.
No, yes. So
Okay, so I'll do
So
it again.
now in here, I shift down to here. It's easy because he already told me he likes to throw that shot. And I'm looking for the thing that makes him throw that shot. So this goes back to what I was talking about before, the second part of the attack. The first is figuring out where you can create the opening and when to throw it. And the second is, what do they do with their weapon while you're attacking? Okay. If they're a counter shooter, then you need to know what triggers their shot. Because a triggered shot is already committed. Then you can take your shot. And that's where the timing thing comes in. Sometimes my timing will be late. If they like to throw, I will sometimes give a hard commit. And this looks like a stop, but I'm moving my oval forward, slowing it, and then moving it again. Because I want this to feel like this was the attack. Bang. Because I want their shot to go, and I want to pause for that quarter second, let them finish what they're doing, or to go, and then I got it. I don't care. It's sort of busy. The example I had before, which he graciously did wrong for me on the second one, which was to put the sword up, if I know that this motion pulls shield and then sword up, then his sword's busy. That's another way. Do they sword block? Sure. Give him some false information to block the sword. Okay. Now, I've touched on it a whole bunch, and I never used the term. Throwing feints. Okay, did everybody see them? There's a crap ton of them in here. Most of my fights are lies. Okay, because I want information. I will throw shots every now and then if I feel like the person thinks there's nothing to worry about. I will throw a shot. But it's in a loop. They loop in, fire, and fade out. My only goal is to make them go, whoa, he's throwing. Well, he's not. Well, was that real or not? So now they're unsure again. Okay? So, I don't like to use the word feint because everybody thinks of their feints as being different than their shots. If you do, then it's not a feint. Okay? It's obvious. The person who cocks sword feints are horrible because a sword feint, even if they buy it, you have to correct the weapon before you can throw your shot. So a sword feint is a waste of time unless you're really, really fast. Okay? When you throw a good shot, you throw it from your body, right? So this pointing of the hip is the very first part of a shot. So the way I like to think of it is, you never feint. You always throw shots all the time. It's just most of them, you just don't do any more than the first few percent of them. You actually don't complete them. You just start the body part. If you start the hand part, now you've committed the weapon, and you put yourself at a weakness. Okay? So you can get the, I will do it with fencing. I don't have a lot of, I don't have much training at all coming from manuals. Well, a lot of what I did came from heavy that I use on the fencing field. A lot of fencers will respond. They have a great sense of parry and riposte. It's, in fact, if I'm not mistaken, in modern fencing, it's actually required. You can't just tag somebody, you have to have control of their weapon. Okay, we don't have to have that, but the fact that they make it part of their sport tells you how important it is to have control of a person's weapon. They typically do it with some kind of physical hit to the weapon. We can do it by feinting and getting them commit a weapon or commit into a shot, just like a fencer does. My favorite one with a fencer is these same things. The reason I bring this up is this doesn't matter what weapon style you're fighting, what kind of fighting, it works. Okay, so when I fight a fencer, because my blade control is not as good as a fencer, what I'm looking for is to give them information that says, this is my attack, so they start their blade control and roll. Blade control and roll requires you to stay typically. They don't leave unless they lose, but if then it's too late. Does that make sense? Okay, so that's why I like giving false information, especially in a rapier field, because I don't have the blade control they do. I want to control their decisions on when they want to use the blade. Okay? I will do both over here, but over there, like I say, I don't have the blade control that they do. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Questions?
Yeah, the footwork that you do, I've read a lot of Sashi. Seems really similar from what I've read out of the firearms.
Okay.
With the walking step that you have, rather than like a more forward stance that most people will adopt. So it just really looks, seems similar from what I read.
Yes, I've found that we have a night narrator who did study a lot of the, and forgive me, some people I-33 and 133. If you've ever heard of it, 133 or I-33 is a very common book that's studied for a lot of sword combat, especially on the fencing or top thrust side. We have a night narrator who did a lot of studying of that and did a lot of fencing as well, and I don't. But I'm successful over here, and we found that a lot of what I was doing that was working is actually in the manuals. I'm sure you've all heard it, they've talked about how a lot of samurai, when they fought with a katana, was a lot like how a European fighter fought with a bastard sword. There's a lot of extreme similarities between the two, and the conjecture was, it's obvious somebody traveled someplace else and learned, right? No, that's not it at all. The thing is, the human body, once it begins to become an expert at a thing, there's only certain ways it can do it and certain ways that are optimal. So what you've got is a sport with a price. And in their case, that price was death. So you didn't screw around with the fancy stuff. You used the stances and the positions with the weapon that are most optimal. The human body only goes a certain ways. We're going to get people from Europe, people from Japan, doing almost the same motions. Obviously there's some differences because there's a slashing weapon and ours is a hacking weapon. There's still
Modular moves and so on.
That's exactly right. So when I see that, I'm complimented. It means I'm doing something right. And that's my reason for this. The reason fencers fight sideways, of course, is because that presents a smaller target, allows for this extreme reach of range, presenting as little as possible.
And it can be really lovely.
You're great.